Patrik, just your thoughts on everything you were able to accomplish here in the last week or so leading up to the deadline.
Yeah, it was an interesting couple of weeks here, and obviously an interesting season for us as well. The last couple of weeks here, kind of identifying what the options are out there and what other teams thought about our players and how we improve our hockey club moving forward. So give a lot of credit to my staff, my scouting staff, that have done a really good job up to this point, especially the pro guys.
Your thoughts on Filip Hronek and the reason why you prioritized acquiring him at this moment?
Yeah, if we back it up a year ago, we looked at the options coming in here. How do we improve our especially our right side, getting younger, getting a feel for players available, how the market would be last summer and this summer, and our scouting staff identified a list of players, and we felt, you never know if players going to be available or not, but the discussions leading up here to the day we did the trade with Filip there, we felt that at this point in time, we were excited to have an opportunity to acquire a top-end right-shot defenseman in Filip Hronek, and being 25 years old and have a chance to control him for another 2 years.
How do you see him fitting in? What do you think his ceiling is in terms of what he can accomplish once he gets here and joins your group?
Yeah, it's interesting. He's definitely give us the way we want to play, the way we want to create an identity here of playing fast hockey. The skill we have up front, it's requiring the puck to get up the ice and preferably on the tape too. Filip is a two-way defenseman that over the last couple of years, I would say, established himself as a top-end defenseman in the league. He got, I believe, 9 goals up at this point. I think is another option offensively, as well as his character, compete and two-way games. So definitely the coaches have 2 really good defensemen here in Quinn Hughes and Hronek, and it's up to the coaching staff how to use them. I guess with Gonchar being a former lefty and Footer a righty, so I think they will figure it out.
Patrik, in the last month here, with what you've accomplished age-wise, skill-wise, with compete levels, how much of the heavy lifting has already been done and how much more is there to do?
Where we're sitting right now, I believe there is more to do here. We're not happy where we are. I'm happy to see the response from the players since Rick Tocchet took over here, what we emphasize on day-to-day stuff, how we changing the standard and the culture, what it means to become a Vancouver Canuck moving forward here. We still have some work to do in order to get this team to where we believe they deserve to be. The fan base here to be a competitive team moving forward and hopefully taking a big step next year.
Where do you stand with Brock Boeser right now?
You know what, Brock Boeser, he struggled this year. I think if you talk to Brock, I think he wanted to be a better player. I think he's capable of being a better player. Give him a lot of credit since Rick Tocchet came in here. I think he's played his best hockey. Great goal last night. I think he's moving his feet. He's competing. He plays with more urgency. I still believe we need to push him harder. We need more out of him, and he's capable of it.
At this time of the year, I think generally we think of prices being higher. So why trade for Hronek now? Perhaps not. You could have maybe waited until the summer when prices were as high.
I don't know if the prices are high or low. I mean, the prices will always be high on high-end players. I don't think you get a discount on high-end players. And to be honest, too, you never know if those guys are going to be available. The high-end guys, they're not usually available. And the conversations leading up to this, when we were able to do the deal here, I keep that to myself, and it was between me and Detroit. So, yeah, we felt that this was a great opportunity for what we've been looking for over the year here.
When you traded Horvat, you were very excited at first. You spoke of Brad too as a second-round pick looking like a first. You've now moved out a first and a second. Are you disappointed that that's what you had to give up at this point? In terms of the picks, the price that you had to pay. I mean, you were very excited with a first-round pick. You were very excited. You said in Raju that you could get another Raju-type player with that second-round pick and give it up. That must be difficult to have to give it up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not collecting picks just to collect picks. I'm collecting picks to either draft hockey players or trade to get hockey players in here. I was not happy to give up Bo Horvat, but I was extremely happy with how the return turned out. And again, we were very excited talking to the coaching staff here leading up to this week, what areas we can improve our team on. And as I said, the right side was something we felt really strong about to improve. And again, when we had the opportunity to get a high-end player as Filip Hronek, we had the assets in this point to do it, and we felt that this was an important move for our organization.
Just to follow up on Brock again, obviously we know that his agent's been involved in trying to facilitate a trade, and there were reports that, teams wanted you guys to retain a lot of salary if you were potentially going to move him. Is the plan still to attempt to move him this offseason?
I mean, again, I'm asking my coaching staff to get the most out of my players. In this case, Brock Besser is 25 years old. We could say he's having a down year, but he's probably close to getting 20 goals. He's a good hockey player. I'm looking at all the options to improve our team moving forward. So if there is a deal that makes sense for us to improve our team, I'd definitely take a look at it.
How much interest was there in JT Miller?
I had one team that reached out to me here this morning. I don't think they were very serious. I never had an offer for JT Miller, so I leave it at that.
That was going to be my question. So there was a report that perhaps draft picks were offered for JT. That's inaccurate?
I never had an offer for JT Miller.
Patrik, coming out of deadline season, you have the most 2023, 2024 cap space committed on your roster. How difficult is that going to make it, getting your team to the point where it's going to be competitive in the wake of the Hronek deal?
Yeah, that was definitely something we discussed here, and I felt pretty comfortable with the options we were discussing with internally and externally here with the options for this summer. So definitely that was something that we had to consider when we did this deal, where is this something we would be obviously compliant on moving forward, and that's where I felt there was enough options to do it.
A lot of teams in the playoff race looked at the market unfolding, saw the prices, and decided to sell, right? Including the Detroit Red Wings, the Washington Capitals. You're really the only team that bought from 27th. What was the logic behind behaving in that manner?
In terms of buying Filip Hronek?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as I said, I think going back to last year, priority for us have been to identify right shot defensemen. And I think our scouting staff has done a phenomenal job getting the list in order, paying attention to the details, being out working, and going through the process. And when we had a chance to get Phil here and improve our hockey team, we felt that this was definitely a move we want to do.
Considering how this season has unfolded, and considering that Hronek and Beauvillier, two of your acquisitions at the deadline, match up with Petey in terms of their contract length, right? Have you created sort of a one-year window around those guys? How important is making the playoffs next season, in your view?
I think, again, I'm not happy where we are. That was not, or my job is to improve our hockey team. I think part of it that the contracts lines up where they are is that, again, we were looking for 25-year-old players and younger. And in this case, those particular two players are players that myself in my previous position have tracked and followed. And I do believe that they're just getting into their prime here. And again, you mentioned, Petey. Obviously, he's a young player here as well that just with this season taking off here gets this club excited where we have a chance to go with those young players here now.
In the short term with Hronek, what's your understanding of the nature of his injury and when you might get him in the lineup?
Yeah, he asked for a couple days to close down in Detroit here. He's injured. He's listed week to week. I would think once we get him in here to Vancouver here early next week, we know more about it. But I would anticipate him playing here in a couple of weeks.
You've cleared up a couple roster spots as well for some contracts here. How active do you expect to be in the NCAA free agent market?
Again, our scouting staff has, with a smaller group of prospects in our pipeline, we definitely has been fairly active around the college and European and major junior free agent players. So we'll see here over the next couple of weeks if things would materialize and bring in some of those players here or not. But I think we feel that we're being a very, very attractive club for different reasons, but part of it is, the coaching staff in Abbotsford, or addition on our development staff, that it definitely feels excited to have a lot of younger players that wants to come to Vancouver Canucks and be part of this.
Is one of those Aiden McDonough. You've been able to have conversations with him for a while. He's one of the top scoring guys in the NCAA. How's the conversations going with him?
Yeah, I think Aiden, I was able to get down there after the World Juniors and meet with his family and his advisors there. Aiden is a tremendous kid and great family. Our development staff and Aiden has a great relationship. As you pointed out, he's one of the top scorers over the last 4 years in college hockey, and we would be very excited to get Aiden in here. And he wants to focus on Northeastern here and finish it up. So I would be very excited to have Aiden McDonough on our club next year.
With the players you currently have on the LTIR, was there any talk of weaponizing the cap space that made available to acquire further draft picks or prospects here at the deadline?
We talked about it. With the retention, you're only allowed to have 3 contracts on retention. And as we were looking at all the options to improve our club, we felt that some of the discussions that we were in regarding picking up draft picks, it wasn't that significant return, taking on cash where we are if there was going to be a late move here today or not. So that's why we didn't really get into that.
And with the cap that you have committed for the future, what is going to be the biggest challenge in clearing some of that cap space this off season? Was there any attempt at this deadline to move out some big contracts?
We looked at all the options again to see if there were hockey deals to be made or if there was some clearance on cap space. And we all know, we've seen over the last couple of days what it costs to clear contracts. At this point, I wasn't willing to pay to get out of some of the contracts here. And again, when you're an underperforming team and have underperforming players, you're not that attractive to the other teams.
Just your thoughts on the move to send Curtis Lazar to New Jersey and the fit or maybe lack thereof with him this year with this group?
Yeah, again, I want to thank Curtis for what he did, professional player. We felt at this point with Nils Åman's game where he was going, where his direction of his game, that we want to have a different look on the fourth line moving forward. I know that I brought in Curtis here to for his versatility, his character, his leadership. He's been a good player for us, but we also recognize that we need more production out of our fourth line there. So Curtis, it was a decision we made here this morning.
We saw that Dermott, Pullman, and Bear were all on the ice skating today. Do you have timelines for any of those three guys as to when you may get them back or may not?
I think the closest one is Ethamir. He should be back, is my understanding here, next week. Those two other ones I don't have.
Patrik, you say I mean, it's no secret that your club has been trying to carve out cap flexibility since you arrived 12 months ago. You weren't willing to pay prices to do so at the deadline. Are you confident that you'll be able to find those deals without too much pain this offseason?
Yeah, the discussions that I had with, as I said, internally and even externally with some of the teams there, that I felt comfortable that there will be ways for us to be compliant here starting up the season.
Is there any concern, because we know how teams pressed up against the cap operate, they're often contenders. They often have to part with assets to free up cap flexibility. You've obviously parted with assets to get a cost-controlled right-handed defenseman. Is there any concern that maybe your club doesn't have the sort of depth of prospects to be functioning the way that real contenders do?
Yeah, but as I said to his question here, that's where we emphasized on a lot to find more younger players coming in here and giving them an opportunity. And I think Abbotsford has done a tremendous job this year. There is a lot of players down in Abbotsford that I'm excited about finish up the year in Abbotsford, hopefully have a long playoff stretch there and coming into training camp and again give us an internal competition there. Am I concerned about the cap for this summer? I wouldn't say I'm not overly concerned about getting out of it, but we don't know how much the cap is going to go up next year. That's still a question here too. So we'll see. But as I said, I felt comfortable enough doing this deal, knowing that I will be compliant coming to September.
Patrik, you guys kind of kicked off trade season with the big Horvat deal. Why do you think so many of the trades were done early this year?
Good question. I think that's look at Jim Rutherford. He's always early, but I think that's where he is so good. And I think, to be honest, I think every player is unique. I mean, it's more about the other teams, how much they really want the player.
How close were you to doing something big, whether it was adding another first-round pick or perhaps adding a young player that you really liked?
In the end of the day, we weren't very close.
You and Jim have been pretty consistent about it being a 1 to 2 year timeline in terms of turning the team around. Has anything this season given you a reason to second guess that timeline for a longer term project?
You know what? As I said, it's never a good thing when you have to part ways with a coach mid-season. But I do think where we are right now and what I've seen over the last couple of weeks since Rick Tocchet came in here, again, how we want to move forward here, how we want to play, how we want to practice. I do see a lot of improvements from a lot of players. There's going to be more demanding. This is not good enough. So if you're going to play on the Vancouver Canucks, there is a certain standard that needs to be held here, and that's every day. It's not only on game days. It's every day. What we value when you're walking in there to Rogers Arena, and I think Talk and his coaching staff has implemented that. But there's definitely more work to be done here, and the players need to take ownership of that as well and be prepared for next year.
On the verge of missing the playoffs for the 8th time in 9 years. You've just traded a first-round pick for a 25-year-old player, right? Are you willing to tell fans that this team can make the playoffs next year, given your actions at the deadline?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're not going to make the playoffs this year, which is extremely disappointed to myself, and that's on me. It's on me, and it's on me to make this team better. And as I said, when we've been searching for a right shot defenseman, there might have been other options during the year, but there was no one even close to being as good as Filip Hronek is, and with a cost control on him for 2 more years. And the way we want to play, it demands a certain type of player to play that style, and that's where having Quinn Hughes and Filip Hronek here is a 1-2 punch. We're extremely excited about it.
So is your expectation to make the playoffs next year in light of the cost paid for Hronek?
Well, just not on him. My expectations is to make the playoffs with the players we have here, and especially you have an elite goalie in Thatcher Demko and Filip Hronek, Quinn Hughes, Pettersson, Miller, Kuzmenko. I mean, we have good players here, no doubt about it. But we need to learn how to play as a team, and we have a lot of work to do in order to be a playoff team here. But I'm very confident in the coaching staff I got in here now, and what we're gonna do in order to come ready next year.
Patrik, there's been a lot of talk about the AHL getting a playoff run and that being very important. Are we going to see some of the guys in the AHL get a shot in the NHL this season, or are you kind of focused on keeping them together, rolling into the AHL playoffs that way?
We did a couple of transactions here today in order to assign guys to have the opportunity to play down in Abbotsford. I think playoff hockey is really important. It's different. No matter what league you are in, it's important that you learn to play under pressure, heavier, tougher games. So definitely it will be good for those young players to play playoffs in Abbotsford. We still got around 20 games here left, and hopefully some of those other guys down there that performed well will get an opportunity to showcase themselves up here as well.
Patrik, we were just talking to Kyle Dubas in the other room, and he was saying that getting a trade over the line is just kind of the beginning. What's the feeling like for you when you get a trade done and you know you're moving on to something else? What are the emotions like there?
I mean, as a player, you want to win games on the ice, and you want to feel good about yourself. And I think this is when you do a trade or you're drafting a player, I think that's what the scouts or analytics staff and the hockey ops are excited they can see some improvement and players that they feel really good about. So, you could be excited about the transaction, trades, draft picks, and all that, but in the end of the day, it's all about winning hockey games. It doesn't matter if you hit on a player in the draft or if you're lucky to sign a free agent. If you're not winning, it doesn't matter. That's what it's all about, in my opinion.
Last one, please. Patrik, you talked a lot about cap compliance. You'll be cap compliant come September, but we see teams that operate with cap space, especially the last few years, are able to get valuable players at a lesser return, whether it's a Devon Toews or a John Marino, as a result of having the flexibility to have those players. Is your team in a position where it can afford to not be in that market?
Well, we don't have that kind of cap space, but I believe that Tampa Bay has been pretty successful, not without cap space, and winning Stanley Cups. So there is a reason most of the time that you don't have cap space. And I don't see our team being one of those teams.
Sorry?
I don't see our team being in that category. As I said, we have Demko, Quinn Hughes, Filip Hronek, JT Miller, Elias Pettersson, and Kuzmenko here.